Welcome, YouTube, my queer women, my LGBTQIA plus folk, and any other people that are stumbling upon this right now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, I have tried many times to get a YouTube version of the L Word onto my page, but due to copyright, due to difficulties, it's become very difficult, and I don't think I'm going to be able to have the L Word on my YouTube. But I will be doing reviews. So starting now with this, after each episode, I'm going to post a review of that episode onto my YouTube and give you my thoughts of that episode. If you do want to see my entire reaction, you can go to my Patreon and you'll see the entire reaction, full unedited version of that episode. So as it stands, I'm sorry YouTube, the L Word's gonna have to be a Patreon exclusive. But that doesn't mean to say that I won't be trying to upload other reactions to other queer media onto my YouTube. So other shows that have queer women in, I'm gonna try and see if I can get them, get a YouTube edit on my YouTube. So hopefully there will be some reaction stuff on my YouTube, but for full access to all things without having to worry about any blockage or problems, then definitely check out my Patreon, because that's where all my material will be. And I will be posting down the link to my Patreon down below. So for this video, we're gonna kickstart with my review of episode 1. If you want to see the full unedited reaction of episode 1 to the L Word, you can check my Patreon and you'll see it right there. So let's get on to the review, guys. For episode 1, basically not much happened. We got basically we just got a nice introduction to the characters, and I think it was quite a nice introduction. It kind of looked at the different cast and the different diversity that can happen within within queer women, within the LGBTQI community. So I mean, we start off the episode with Bette and Tina, who is, a queer couple, a lesbian couple, and they're trying for a baby, right? This is really important representation, because there's a lot of queer women out there that want to start a family, that want to, be mothers. And I think it's really interesting to be able to have the representation to follow them along in that journey, and highlight any obstacles, any difficulties, and really showcase what it's like for queer women to go about trying to have a baby and what the process is like. So I'm really excited to follow along in this journey. Also, full disclaimer for anybody that's joining, I have seen this show before, but I'm doing a review because I haven't seen this show for like 10 years. So I'm revisiting this after 10+ years. I have a new perspective, I have a new outlook. So I'm coming back to this show basically with the new eyes. So we're kind of going through the whole series again. So this isn't completely a first reaction, but I haven't seen it in a while, and there are a lot of things I don't remember, so a lot of it's going to be like a first reaction. But anyway, to carry on, we get good representation of what it's like to be with the family within the queer community, so that's a really good introduction to those characters. And then we have introduction to some more friends. We have Dana. We get introduced to Dana, who is a closeted queer person, a closeted gay woman in athletics. I think tennis might be her field. I'm not sure what her field. I can't remember if they discussed that in the episode. But what's interesting is very often we hear stories about gay men in athletics, and there are stories about being a closeted gay man and about their struggles, especially when it comes to like toxic masculinity, when it comes to, you know, trying to kind of be macho and masculine, and how sometimes being queer can kind of, or being gay can kind of cause problems in that area, especially within the hive of what it means to be on a team. But it's not very often seeing it from the other spectrum of how a queer woman, of how a gay woman struggles within athletics, because, you know, one would sort of come being like, well, is there that same toxic masculinity, right? Because we're dealing with a woman here, we're dealing with, you know, maybe a female teammate. So is there such the same struggle with masculinity as there would, or is there like toxic femininity? Is there, you know, this kind of expectation, but on the other, you know, side of things, where, you know, there isn't the pressure to be masculine, but there's this pressure to assume some sort of feminine energy, and maybe being in sports kind of goes against the typical femininity that people kind of put you in, the box that you put you in. So I think it's going to be very interesting following along um, a closeted queer woman, and um, how the struggles differ from a woman's perspective, from a gay woman's perspective, as opposed to a gay man's perspective, when it comes to being gay in sports. So this is going to be a really interesting storyline to follow and dissect and analyze. And that's Dana. And then we have Alice. Alice is the bi queen, you know, and already immediately in the first episode, we kind of get some hints to some intra community kind of issues that, you know, this isn't just an issue that happens outside, but it also happens inside, which is this sort of kind of bi-erasure, biphobia that happens on both sides of the spectrum, where, you know, even people within the community might have a sort of a narrow-minded view that, oh, you're either one or the other, that they haven't grasped the concept that there is such a thing, that there is a sexuality where you do like both. And bear in mind, this show is shot by like 2004. I think that, you know, I would imagine that nowadays it's probably more accepted, like bisexuality is more accepted to be a, you know, valid sexual orientation. But I would hazard a guess that, you know, definitely when this was filmed or back then, it was very much like people denying this as a valid sexuality, and people pushing people to be fit into one box and other, as an example of carrying on these sort of traditional categories, but placing them within the community. So again, this whole kind of bisexuality identity is also really interesting to explore within the show. And then we have Marina. Now, Marina is, you know, this Latin, uh you know, I will admit, when I first when I rewatched this and I saw Marina, I forgot about this character. I think because this character isn't in the entirety of the series, her presence is kind of limited, but um I think she comes in and she kind of shakes things up. I mean, her character kind of ties in with another character, which is Jenny, who Jenny comes in, she's, you know, she's in a straight relationship. She's the kind of person that, you know, that her we follow her queer journey right from the start, right? So she comes in, she's in this heterosexual relationship, and then she has this gay awakening. And Marina is kind of the character that kind of, you know, she represents that person that comes along that gives you that gay awakening. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to a time when you do meet that person that kind of awakens these feelings, where you're like, oh wow, I didn't think I could feel this about someone. Maybe this means that I am this way, because why am I feeling this way about this particular person? So, you know, we could all point a time when we're like, this is my gay awakening. This is when and I think this is good representation to show a story of a woman going through her own gay awakening. And often, you know, it can happen when you're already in a relationship. You know, you might be a bit older, you might be in a committed relationship, but then these feelings come up that you didn't think existed because you meet someone that stirs them up and you're like, oh, what is this? And I think even in that first episode, when we see that kiss between Marina and Jenny, I think Jenny leaves that situation feeling, oh wow, what was this? Like, I'm confused. I'm not sure how to handle this. I don't know what this means. And she does leave feeling very confused, not quite sure how to process these feelings. So I think that storyline is definitely going to be interesting to follow along. Um, and then we have Shane. Now, Shane, I think is somebody that, has a bit more masculinity presentation. She's got that tomboy energy. And she's very sexually liberated. And I think it's really nice to have that representation within the queer community, because I think a lot of the time what happens within media when it comes to presenting or representing queer women, especially when this was filmed or especially in the past, was that often people would have this stereotypical image of queer women that, oh, queer women are going to, like, shack up, get married, what, lesbian deathbed or something, or, they move into each other really quickly and they form this commitment, super quick, and they're all about family, right? Which isn't necessarily wrong. I mean, lesbians do that, do want that. But I think it's a stereotype that present that all women, that's all that they're about, that they're represented in this sort of family-oriented thing. And then obviously, the harmful on the other side of the spectrum when it comes to gay men have often been portrayed as these sort of sexually liberated, free, diverse, individuals that, get into these spicy different situations and, not kind of not for family, when we both know that that's not always the case. There are definitely gay men out there that want to be gay dads, that want to have a family, and the same is true for gay women. There are plenty of gay women that aren't immediately rushing into the whole family. They want to be sexually liberated. They want to kind of play the field. They want to kind of, explore themselves sexually a bit. And I think Shane is a good representation of that. It's also bending gender stereotypes in terms of what a woman's supposed to look like, how a woman's supposed to dress, how a woman's supposed to act. She's definitely showcasing more androgynous types of vibes. And it's really just, expanding the boxes of what we consider to be norm, right? In these arbitrary gender norm categories. So I think it's going to be really interesting to to explore her story a bit more, you know? And I think and then obviously we have Tim, who is Jenny's partner, who is the token straight guy, who who I think kind of comes in not quite knowing the situation that he walks in. He's like with he has to deal with the confusion of Jenny. But he doesn't know it yet. Obviously in this first episode, we don't we really don't know how he's going to act, how he's going to respond to that. Is he going to be cool about the fact that, Jenny Jenny has just, kissed another girl, kissed another woman? Is he gonna be okay about it? Is he gonna be understanding? Or is he gonna have an issue? Because very often when we see sort of gay storylines with the other woman, the woman um uh has a hard time has a hard time dealing with the reality that her husband is gay, right? This is kind of like, it could be difficult because you've built that connection, you've built that relationship. So um it's kind of difficult, it's difficult to grasp that. So I think the question is Tim gonna be is Tim gonna handle it in that similar way, or is he gonna be okay about it? This is something we'll have to find out um if how he's gonna act, how he's gonna react. And then we have Kit Porter, who is Bet's sister. And obviously we get that introduction in the car with the cop, maybe some initial racial profiling, but not quite sure. And then she manages to get herself out of being stopped. It seems from her interactions with her sister that maybe she is a little bit troubled, and there's a bit of tension. It seems like she might not be queer, but it hasn't been fully expressed if Bet's sister is queer or not in this particular episode. So I guess we'll have to find out, is Bet's sister also queer, or is she a straight ally? But it seems like she's a singer, and so I think that those are like the main characters that have come up in the episode. And I think we've got a nice plethora. We have a nice plethora of characters within this first episode. And I'm intrigued to see how the story goes. So that's the review of episode 1. Basically just a character introduction, not much in terms of plot, but we'll probably dive into more of the plot as the episodes follow. If you want to see my full reaction to know what I'm talking about and the bits that I'm referring to, definitely go to my Patreon and you can watch my entire reaction of the episode then, so you can catch up. And I will see you in the next video for review 2, for my review of episode 2. I will see you guys in the next one. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.